We are live.
Thank you, Mrs. DeGrasse. Call our meeting to order. We will start with the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, let me see if I can fix this.
I want to thank all of you for coming and welcome you. We wanted to abide by rules and have social distancing, but still get everyone in. So we moved into this room in anticipation of more people joining us. So that's why we're in here. We want to thank our tech guys. They're amazing. We got all this set up, and Mr. Burtonshaw obviously is joining us on Zoom.
You took the whole today, so.
Thank you. All right, well, once a year, we do a board organization for chairman, vice chair, clerk, and treasurer.
Yes, sir. Okay.
So we will, during that, we'll then call for nominations for chair to serve for the ensuing year.
Madam Chair, I'd like to nominate Mrs. Sherry for the chair for the ensuing year.
Second that. Really, if anyone would like to try this. Okay. Motion and second have been made, thank you. Is there any discussion? Do you want? I have tried to convince Mr. Burtonshaw, but we'll just table that. That's
I just want to say, I think you've done a great job, and you have the capability of being here and on the spot, and some of the rest of us don't. It's really nice for us to have you take that position. It's really nice for the rest of us. I think we're too far away or too busy.
That's why I nominated, right?
Can you hear us now, Tyson?
Yeah, I can hear you there.
Okay.
I'm just calling for your roll call vote.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, nominations for vice chair to serve for the ensuing year.
Madam Chair, I'd like to nominate Willie again for vice chair.
Is there a second? Any discussion? Roll call vote, Mrs. Turpin. Yes. Mr. Shaw. You did that.
I do, I accept.
Mrs. Perkins
Aye.
and Mr. Burtonshaw.
Aye.
Thank you. Nominations for clerk. The board be open for that motion.
Madam Chair, I'd like to nominate Carrie McGrath again for clerk.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Mrs. DeGrasse, can you accept that nomination?
Yes, ma'am.
Any discussion?
I think, Carrie, you deserve a big thanks for this job you've done. Done a great job being our clerk. Appreciate you. You seem to know everything.
She does.
I'm just really good at baking.
Yeah, well, you did a good job.
Roll call vote, Mrs. Turpin. Mr. Schmidt.
Aye.
Mrs. Perkins.
Aye.
And Mr. Burtonshaw.
Aye.
Thank you. Nominations for treasurer.
Madam Chair, I nominate Mrs. Patty Bingham for the treasurer for the ensuing year.
Is there a second? Even any discussion? Roll call vote, Mrs. Yerby. Mr. Schmidt.
Aye.
Mrs. Perkins. Aye. Mr. Burnshaw.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. That's for another year. Great. On your agenda, you may not have. We also have a code of ethics for school board members. Oh, chromosome.
So, Mrs. Cherry asked that I just review the code of ethics, just generally for those that are in the audience, and each year that our board members, I'm really grateful for our board. These are volunteer positions, and if you haven't noticed throughout the state that the people that sit in this position up here are dropping like flies all over the place. And that says something about the group of people that are here, but also for our community, supporting them and working together through the different things. The code of ethics for the school board members to attend the scheduled meetings insofar as possible. You know, we're grateful for technology where Mr. Burkershaw is able to join us still. Recognize the board must comply with the open meeting law, make decisions based on available facts and independent judgment, and refuse to surrender that judgment to individuals or special interest groups. Understand that the board makes a decision as a team. Individual board members may not commit the board to any action unless so authorized by official board action. And that's comforting to me since I'm the only employee that the board has, that if one of the board members has a personal issue against me, it has to be board action completely. And our board members only have me as their employee. And so that's what, when there are issues in the community with teachers or anything else, it's not a board member's job to go and take care of that. That's why it needs to go with chain of command, first to the teacher, then to the administrator, right, Mr. H, you first, then me, and then up the channel. Acknowledge that policy decisions are a primary function of the board and should be made after full discussion and publicly held board meetings, recognizing the authority to administer policy rests with the superintendent or administrator or the charter school. Our school board has been trained in the proper procedures of how a district should function according to code, and that is one thing that our board members, it's not their job to be an administrator. It's not their job to be coming into the schools and see what the teachers are doing. That's what they hire the superintendent and administrators for. Be open, fair, honest, no hidden agendas, respect the rights of other board members to have opinions and ideas which differ. Recognize that the superintendent or administrator is the board's advisor and should be present in all meetings, except when the board is considering the superintendent's evaluation, which is exactly what happened, why some of you saw me in here earlier. And that's one of the only times you'll see the board members together talking without me there. Understand the chain of command. Refer problems or complaints to the proper administrative office while refraining from communications that may create conditions of bias should a concern ever arise to the attention of the board as a hearing panel. Our board has been trained that when somebody has an issue, please don't tell our board members because that would excuse them from being able to act in their capacity as a board member. Keep abreast of important developments in educational trends, research, and practices by individual study and through participation. We do go to trainings This year we had virtual trainings in November. Those were talked about during some of our board meetings. Respect the right of the public to be informed about district decisions and school operations. The school board has allowed us to have this online format, and we've never been more transparent with everything that we're doing. Unless I need to be invited over to dinner to sit down and explain every little thing, the school board is following this and recommending this. Understand that our school board members receive information that's confidential and cannot be shared. This is for our school board members to give the staff and respect and consideration due skilled professional employees and support the employment of those best qualified to serve as district staff, while insisting on regular and impartial evaluation of all staff. Again, it's not the school board members to come into the school buildings and provide evaluations. It goes back to the administration. Present personal criticism of district operations to the superintendent or administrator, not to district staff or to a board meeting or Facebook or anything like that. I heard that last part, but it is in our policy. We refuse to use my board position for personal and family gain or prestige. I will announce any conflict of interest before board action is taken. Remember always that my first and greatest concern must be the educational welfare of the students attending the public schools. So board members, that's what our board members sign up to do as volunteers, and thank you for your service to our community.
Okay. I'm ready for a motion to approve the agenda this evening.
Madam Chair, I make that motion that we approve the agenda.
Because Mr. Burnshaw will do every vote will be a roll call vote. Mr. Burnshaw.
Aye.
Mrs. Perkins. Aye. And Mr. Burnshaw.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Before we open for a motion to approve the minutes from our previous meeting.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the minutes from previous meetings. Board meeting in December, the 17th, and a work meeting January 11th.
Is there a second?
Second, Madam Chair.
Is there any discussion? Those in favor? Mrs. Reed? Aye. Mr. Sherman?
Aye.
Mrs. Perkins?
Aye.
And Mr. Burnshaw?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. The superintendent's report, Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This seems like everything we have, we have so much going on. And as a superintendent, I wanted just to share just some of the thoughts that I've had as superintendent with the process of things going on this last month. And one of the things I learned while taking the class to become a superintendent, I was inspired. The book was called My Leadership Sucks. And sometimes when things are hard, you think, okay, what was the reason of this? But in that book, there was a section where it talked about the difference between a manager and a leader. And in my previous admin degree, I took a class and everything saying, a manager, you don't want to be a manager at a school. You want to be a leader, be able to help guide people through things. But this book talked about the difference between a manager and a leader and how they're both important. And so a manager keeps things afloat and maintains the status quo. Like coming in and manage, just make sure that bills are paid, this is good, everything's in. But a leader recognizes that there are going to be change. And the process of change is not easy. And questions the status quo. And those are things that I strive to do. And that's the reason why I strive to do that. Is because organizations need a mix of both. And through that process of what guides me and is the feedback that I get through pod meetings, emails, calls, those are all appreciated and considered. But we recognize that there will never be a complete consensus or agreement on all things. And I want people to know that their opinions, even though they might differ from mine, doesn't mean that their viewpoint was not taken into consideration. And that's one of the hardest things sometimes when we're passionate about certain things, is that we feel like if somebody doesn't follow me 100%, then I was completely put off. And as a district, and as I think we're moving in a direction where we can have those kinds of conversations. I mentioned this before. I was sitting back where Officer Keller, Deputy Keller, was in a meeting where I thought I would never want to work for this district. And we've come a long way. It's not me, it's we. And it's also our community wanting to do that. And I just want to encourage that as we go forward, there's not a lot of stability left in the country, but it can be here. And we can start it here. And I just wanted to share that just at the beginning of the superintendent message. You know, since April 2016, all of our board meetings, work meetings, POM meetings have been recorded and available on our community portal on YouTube Live, and we're doing that tonight. Anyone can watch, sign up for the notifications about any of those meetings, and watch them live, go back and watch them later. A couple quotes from a book that's really helped me. Our school board have read this as a school board. It's called Dare to Lead. And Brene Brown, the author, defines a leader as anyone who takes responsibility for finding the potential in people and process, and who has the courage to develop that potential. We have a lot of potential in our district, and a lot of potential in the people that are here. Whether or not we agree 100%, I believe our staff and everybody will do what's right for kids, regardless of the situations that we're in. The last one that I wanted to share, and this is kind of for the board. When we look at the agenda, we know that there are things coming up, but it says the courage to be vulnerable is not about winning or losing. It's about the courage to show up, and when you can't predict or control the outcome. You know, I appreciate our board members for showing up when we can't control or predict the outcome, and to be able to be volunteers with that. So I just wanted to say thank you. We're on this annual review meeting. We've come a long ways, and it's been an enjoyable first year as a superintendent. It's enjoyable as a pandemic. Everything else can be. Another thing, school board members, I did send out a letter to parents earlier in the month about just our procedures for inclement weather. You remember in our policy, the board approved that we could have a 2-hour late start. That was explained to them. Luckily, I'm going to knock on wood, we've had a wonderful, I'm not going to jinx this, all the kids at home, but we've had a wonderful winter so far. We haven't had to do that. But the idea behind that, if it's blowing and low visibility and dangerous, probably can't sleep for the whole day. But if it's a cold day, we probably can still get some time in a little bit later. It's amazing what the sunlight does when it's -20 to make it feel like, 18 feels great, doesn't it? So I just wanted to know, another thing on our board meetings this last month, we wrote a policy calendar. I wanted to have Mr. Schmidt, not only is our vice president on our board, but he's also an ISBA regional committee member, and he attends weekly ISBA government affairs committee meetings. And so he's working on that, listening to a lot of different things, staying abreast of everything happening. POM meetings over the last month, we talked about calendar, school levy, COVID athletic plan. For the finances, we were informed that we will be receiving another implementation of the federal COVID funds. However, it's really sticky right now because the legislature, we were cut back 5% last year. We were trying to discuss because it ended with a surplus. And so there was talk that they would come back and just restore that 5%, which could be used initially to restore all those programs that we lost. The difficult thing is that they're not looking to replace it money dollar for dollar and put it into our discretionary account and let's use it how we want to. They want to decrease our discretionary funding and give us the COVID federal money.
Call it equal. And there's a big problem with that.
Yeah, there is. How much of that 5% that we lost did we get back with their reimbursement from last year?
So again, it wasn't apples for apples. So if you didn't hear the question, how much did we get back? So we lost roughly $240,000 from the district.
Okay.
And we probably got around that much back.
That's what I thought.
But there's strings attached to that money were to buy masks, to buy hand sanitizer, and we were able to buy computers and things which went to the kids. But it was very limited in how we were able to push that back into the programs. And so I'm going to keep a close eye on that as the legislature meets, because you may hear things on the news sources saying, hey, they're restoring all the funding, but it's not going to be that easy. And I wish it was. And so that's something I'll be exploring this next month as things progress in Boise. Our technology department, they're continuing to work on the computers, Chromebooks being formatted to get those out to teachers. Again, another shout out. Thank you, Mr. Weeks, for helping set up our impromptu TV show here tonight. So thank you. Maintenance grounds. Do you know what's happening when most of us are snug in our beds? Yeah, our district maintenance crew, they start their day at 3 o'clock or earlier to come down and snow the parking lot shovels. So make sure that if anybody is listening, if you see Mr. Soderquist, Mr. Bell, Mr. McAnally, Mrs. Murdoch up in Hamer, tell them thank you. We are so fortunate. It's amazing when you look at all the different things that we have. Couldn't do it without them. Food service, Mrs. Ward has done a great job with working through all the COVID waivers. The federal red tape with the lunch program is immense. Then she's also applied for many grants this year, and we're waiting to hear back from one from Christmas break. Transportation department, thank you again to all their hard work. The drivers are doing a great job keeping our kids safe to and from school. Secondary school, Mr. Guimar has set up a resource on the district website for school counseling and guidance counseling. This is one where just so parents that are out there listening, they'll be able to go have information about both emotional and academic counseling. And so they'll go through that and make sure that that's available. Elementary schools. Mr. Harrelson purchased some sleds for both the elementary schools in Hamer and here. And I'll tell you what.
Is that a new class?
There's nothing like being at recess. So there's something that I picked up from a teacher earlier, and I tried that as a principal. I shared it with Mr. H, and he went and did it. And I'll tell you what, the kids are so busy out at recess that they don't get in trouble as much. But my kids have loved it, and occasionally Mr. H will take them over to the hill by the football field and have fun. So thank you, Mr. H, for doing that. Just a little bit of update on our extracurricular. Our boys basketball team currently third in the conference right now. So we've had some wins, and we have some tough competition a little bit on the other two teams, but they're working hard. Our girls basketball team is currently second in the conference and fifth in the state. And so they're 11-3 right now. District will start in a week the week after next.
And they're playing tonight.
And they're playing tonight. Our wrestling, they won the duel on Tuesday against Salmon, which was really exciting. And some of the results from the Bear Lake Classic, you can see that we had a couple champions there, Tegan Hansen, Cameron Wright. Unfortunately, Cameron had to wrestle his brother in the championship round, so don't know how that was at home on the ride home. But Reagan Roundy got third, Everett Richens, you can see Josh Reyes was runner-up, Gage Mayer was third, and Cassie Goodyear in the girls division was third as well. And there will be a girls state tournament that's going to be held in Pocatello, where they just invite all the girl wrestlers. And Cassie actually had her first dual pin. She pinned her opponent on Tuesday. So that's exciting. We have been broadcasting all the games or matches. I should have said matches because at the wrestling match, I had Coach Sawicki, Mark Sawicki, and I am not a wrestling background, and I was slaughtering it. It was like, here comes a player. They're not a player, they're a wrestler. So if you go back and watch that, I apologize to everybody that had to listen to me. But having Coach Sawicki there, he was able to help interpret that. COVID athletic plan. We know that there's some proposed legislation on a joint resolution in the House and Senate right now. It got postponed until Monday. And that was because the governor came out and said he was going to have an announcement. While the school board was evaluating the superintendent, I got an email. And so this is hot off the press for everybody. And so this is the updated gathering on it. Biggest change is they are going to allow 40% of the gym's capacity to start coming.
Good.
So we'll be working with as I'm looking at the capacity for that, probably 600 or 700 people, or up to people per person. I'm going to meet with the athletic director tomorrow morning. We'll put a plan together, but this will be ready to roll by senior night on Saturday for our girls. And so we'll get that out. Super excited. It's good to have good news. But I will tell you, they are going to say masks are required. Make sure you have one. Really how it works, if you're social distance in your spot, we'll let the adults govern themselves. But the students that come are still under the direction of the school and under this. And so, what a wonderful thing though. We're going to be able to have a lot more students and community members coming to the game on Saturday.
Great.
So we'll go
Lot
through
of
the
happy
details
people
on
happy
that.
about that.
So, all right, Madam Chair, that's all I have. Are there any questions from the board members on anything with this?
Okay. Moving on. Okay. As we move to patron input, as a reminder, this is a meeting for the Board of Trustees and you are here to observe. I am grateful for our board for the time they take away from their families to serve in this capacity. This meeting will be conducted in a respectful manner. There will be no personal attacks. Outside of patron input, there is to be no audience input. If you would like to speak to the board, you will need to fill out the green sheets and hand them in to Mrs. DeBrock. Patron input is a time for you to share your thoughts with the board. The board does not respond. It is not a discussion. You will have 3 minutes to speak during this time. When the timer goes off, that is your signal. So you have 10 seconds to wrap it up. So we will start, and if you want to come to the podium, so everyone can hear you. Andy Elliott.
Got moved to the top.
Mrs. Scott will be after her, and then Mr. Scott.
Well, y'all can't respond, so I need to know this. I need to know who could answer my questions. I was at Hamer the other day, and I saw the kids had the plastic petitions. Is that school-wide or just over Hamer? Anybody tell me?
I can visit with you afterwards.
Okay, all right. Okay, my next question to somebody is, I was wondering what activities they had for y'all to have, I know you United States. I don't have kids here, so I don't, I can't keep up with these things, and all I can do is to ask somebody. I would like a contact name for somebody that I can discuss something about the 1776 project, because I think everybody's aware now of how interested I am to make sure that our kids are being taught the proper things in school. So if I can have a contact name for the 1776 project, and with whom can I speak about how the kids are faring? Are they behind, or we got another school year, or how's that being handled? Because what I hear from the parents is that the kids are behind, except for the highly motivated families. So those are the 4 points I had. Somebody could just tell me where to go.
Thank you. Mrs. Scott.
Fine, sweetie. My flashlight. I think you know why I'm up here, and I just want to share that I'm opposed to the 40-week, and many of you know this, but I wonder if the people who aren't opposed wonder why someone with 24 years of experience in teaching would be opposed. Like you, I find that I personally love 3-day weekends. I have a little time to breathe. However, I'm deeply committed to my why. So when I say these things and the reasons why I'm opposed to the 4-day, I say them as a teacher who has given her life to this school. It is my second home. Last week when I walked into the high school after hearing this was coming to a vote, I felt loss, so much so that I cried for a little while. This is what this will be, is a loss. It isn't a personal loss, but rather a detrimental loss to education and to small rural schools in general. I hope board members, you have read my letter. I know it is long, and I know there were a few mistakes with numbers, and I hope Superintendent Williams corrected that for you. But no matter how many ways you look at this option, it is a loss to West Jefferson to go to this system. Parents in the community may have have a myopic view. They have to advocate for their children, as I've seen so many parents say they love this option and how good it was for their kids, and all of the many things they will do to utilize this day. But as a teacher, I can't have a myopic view, even though personally to me this would be great. I have to look at all students and those who are pushing you. You have to do the right thing for our small rural district. The kids whose parents aren't advocating, can't advocate, have no clue they should be advocating, or even don't understand what they're advocating for. We as teachers and the board must fulfill the mission and vision statement of our district. Small school, big opportunities, endless possibilities. Our rigorous standards challenge all students to rise to their full potential and become the best global citizens they can be. A 4-day school week will be a lost education to our students. Here are some of the long-term damages that I will briefly reiterate that was outlined in my response. Most evidence about the 4-day and why people and districts and admin love it is all anecdotal. While saying kids in the community like it, I don't see educational benefits or research really ever highlighted. Unlike what many of you may think, the 4-day is not a trend. It is in fact a small percentage of students in our country. So even though it might seem like everyone's doing it, they aren't. It actually is done mostly in the West, in small rural schools. This typically hits small rural schools and is a barrier that affects how they compete with larger schools who go to school more, have larger curriculums and 5-day schedules. So rural schools take another hit. Longer days are not good for student learning. They have a hard time in the afternoon. Our sports schedules cannot adjust or just happen on Fridays and Saturdays. We are the mercy of gyms and referees. Thank you.
Amanda, you'll go after Andy.
I'll be finishing when Christy said wholeheartedly agree with her. But we are still suffering from damages done educationally to students from the pandemic. Please give us some time to heal from this. Many of our students not only fell behind, but didn't pass and were trying to catch up and dealing with a new schedule that added to another class to their load. At the end of the first trimester, we had over 1/2 of our students not meeting standards in their classes, and we had to set aside 2 instructional days to help them. We didn't unfortunately get them all where they needed to be. They need more time, not less. While we have many great parents in our community and all want what is best for our children, it's obvious to me that as a teacher how much inequity we have in our school district. To not acknowledge that the school also serves as the caretaker for many kids on the fringes is not a good thing. This will kill high school elective programs, as time charts indicate. Anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks just on this schedule has been lost in scene time. My speech class is only 1 trimester. I had to cut 2 speeches. This has nothing to do with what is important or standards, but rather there was a loss for the students to practice and continue to improve. Other 1 trimester classes are classes that will help students explore things and they love, and that will be cutting their time short. There will be a loss. Absences, illnesses, and curricular activities do not fall just on Fridays. In the fall, I sometimes had kids missing 2 to 3 times a week. That makes a 4-day hurt our students to get involved and to take challenging classes. The schedule we're on allows families and students to have 3-day weekends and also some actual 5-day weeks of instruction, and it's a great compromise. Our college go-on rate is under 50% in Idaho. In the United States, we rank 46th post-secondary degrees completion rate. We can't compete with large school curriculums, but we can compete with quantity, instruction, seat time, and more hours. These 4-day weeks happen in a lot of Western states, and they also rank lower. Could there be a correlation to the time of school attitude of education and rural schools on the 4-day? These cuts come on the backs of those who make the least in our district. And a 4-day week negatively impacts students on IEP, lower income families, and kids on the fringes. A Harvard study found that a country that ignores the quality of its schools does so at its own economic peril. I can't imagine how hard it is to make these kind of decisions. I appreciate your time and effort.
Mrs. Erickson, and then Justin Ingerson and Branson.
Right. I've thought a lot about this and have had good conversations with many people who are passionate about this subject on both sides. And I rise in favor of the 4-day school week after thinking over and over and asking so many people the concerns about longer days for little kids and lack of seat time stuff. We're required to have a certain amount of seat time. And so it's not how we organize the hours, it's what we do with the hours. And our administration has been pushing for better quality education. Our education in our school definitely has suffered in the past, but I don't think it's necessarily because of any schedule we've ever been on. It's because we've lacked focusing on what's most important and doing that really well. And sometimes we get ancillary in our education. I think that having a predictable 4-day every week schedule will actually be beneficial to students and families. We learned from the pandemic 2 things. Number one, we do not want to homeschool our children. We worried that we would have a loss of value of educators, and instead what we had was, please, we need you. But while they were gone, Mr. Williams, Mr. McDonald, Mr. Carlson helped train us on how to teach better. And it's hard to implement that. I think they came back with losses, but then we're also asking more of them and setting higher standards. So part of that not passing was us finally saying, you don't have it, and I don't care who your mom is, for your benefit, we need you to know this, and we're not just gonna pass you along anymore. We're gonna say, you don't have it, but we will help you. And in fact, Mrs. Scott is the one that suggested that we do those blended learning days where we can help those students that still aren't quite there. And that was brilliant, and we're being creative. The other thing we learned from the pandemic though is that we love our families. And if I'm thinking honestly, I love the educators, the education that I received here, but the most important influences in my life are my family. I'm asking as a mother of 5 children in the school district to give me more time in the week with my family. We're not losing as much seat time as we are just passing time. We're tacking on half an hour a day onto the end of the day that's already pretty much wasted. When we get home from school now, we're all tired, there's things you have to do when you go to bed. I'm asking you to give us those half an hour at the end of each day. We're not going to lose seat time, we're going to lose waste time, and what we're going to gain is dawn till dusk with our children if we so choose. Gamers will game no matter what schedule you're on, they will find a way. Whatever we're doing now isn't convincing them to stop, changing the schedule is not going to convince them to stop, they'll still find a way. But I think that this will be what's best for families, but parents be the primary influence.
Thank you.
First off, I want to thank the school board for what they do. It's a very thankless job that you have. So, and there's probably going to be people that think very high, very different on this agenda. I'm also in favor for the 4-day week. I want you to know. I guess one of the things that really, obviously there's good and bad. People can say one thing that I have multiple family members in their school districts that are on the 4-day week. Every time and sometimes they forget students are they're on a 4-day week, right? We're like, no, we're not. And every time they look at me like, why not? And they would be uproar in their communities if they decide to change it. And and I've got family members from very rural districts just like ours to districts that are in like Middleton, Idaho, where they're more in a subdivision type thing. And everybody that I've talked to loves it. Very few people go back, so I think there must be something to that. One thing I love about it is the more efficient we can be with our children and our education. I like the fact that we can add 30 minutes every day to the days they go, and we can cut out that Friday. That makes a big difference to me. I've had kids that struggled at school before, and that extra time on Friday was a great thing that we could do. Normally we could help our kids in the morning to get caught back up and what they can get to do. We felt that was very, very efficient. Another thing is I'm going to see a little bit, talk about advocating for their children. I think that it's advocating for their children to spend more time with their parents. I think that I'm not saying that is the case for every student, but as a majority, I see kids out here with their parents learning great life skills, learning how to work, and different things like that. I'd like to advocate for the children to have more time with their parents, maybe not spend so much time with some of the teachers that maybe we don't agree with what the principals on. So I'm advocating for my kids to be home more, to be doing the things that they choose to do. One thing I think is a great, one thing we really look at is teacher recruitment. You know, gas prices are gonna get higher, automobiles are gonna cost more, teachers are gonna have to drive more. I want to be able to recruit the best teachers. I don't think I care if it's 4 or 5 day or whatever it is, if we can get the best teachers out here for our children, we will be better off that way. And I think the best way to get a better recruiting pool is to make it more convenient for those teachers to drive. 70% of our teachers today commute out of district. And that's really tough. You have to drive on the roads and every day. If we can cut that down for those teachers, whenever we're putting out applications, I think it's really going to help to recruit more people. And I think that really helps for the morale. If there's a lot of teachers coming and a lot of competition, that always makes for a much better education. Another thing is the savings. From a business standpoint, I know there's savings. I know there is concern of cutting some of those people's wages. And many of the people that feel like that they're being cut, I sure hope that the school district might say, hey, we have a special project here, a special project there, to get those people their hours. I don't feel like we should be cutting those people's hours. We might have to realign their hours, you know. As a business owner, that is very important. I'm always changing things, what we're doing. And the same thing with the school here. The job here is to educate the children for the most efficient way we can do that. If we can save money this way and put that money some other way into computers or technology to help them, I think that's beneficial. Thank you.
Today I'm in favor for the 4-day school week, and the reason why that I think so is a lot of my cousins that are in a 4-day school week, they say it's the best and they really like it. And it's like that everybody's more happy because of it. And I think that if we have a 4-day school week with our school being so small as ours, that there's not extracurricular activities and more options offered all the time. So if we had an extra day on Friday to learn those things that aren't offered in school, that would be better. I feel like that if we had 4 days, everybody would work harder and everybody would have a better attitude about going to school, because every time that we have a 4-day week, it seems like everybody pulls through and tries to push to learn everything that we can. In those days, if we have a 5-day, that everybody just slacks off. On that last day, there's no learning anyways. And if we had 30 minutes, if we only have to go 30 minutes extra a day, that our days are cut up as it is. If we only have 4 cut up days instead of 5, then we can have a 3-day weekend and get better. We work harder, we learn more what we need to. And I think that if we cut the breakfast break out too, that would give us 10 minutes a day, and that would, instead of being 30 minutes a day, we can cut it down to 20. Only 20 minutes extra, and just move to the first. And thank you.
Thank you everyone for your input. We will move on to number 4. Consent agenda. Floor will be open for a motion to approve the financial, personnel, and action items.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the consent agenda, financial, and personal action items.
Is there a second?
I'll second that, Madam Chair.
Is there any discussion? I'd just like to say there was a lot of new vendors this year, or this month, on the accounts payable, and when I took my questions in, too close. Mrs. DeGraw, Mrs. Bingham, and Mr. Williams, they just knew every answer, and I just appreciated that so much. They're very involved, they're very informed, and I just want to thank them.
One thing I called Patty about was right on the accounts payable, the first little part of accounts payable, where it shows that we bought interactive displays and mobile stands and interactive displays. Yeah, and spent all the COVID money. And that was, I guess there's a silver lining, you could say, in the COVID. that we have all this wonderful equipment now, and that we met the deadline and we spent our money, so I think that was interesting.
Thank you. All right. There's been a motion and a second. Those in favor, Mrs. Rigby? Aye. Mr. Schmidt?
Aye.
Mrs. Perkins?
Aye.
And Mr. Burnshaw?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. Again, seems like we have a lot of house cleaning things. For our January meeting, we need to set up our board meeting dates for the year.
Okay, so Madam Chair, you can see, not sure if I can, I don't know why Mr. Harrelson gave me the mic that falls down. Maybe we could look at some more COVID money. We're ready for broadcasting on that. Let's see, so I'll go back to that. Trying to scroll through here on this different one to keep everybody out. So our dates, what we did is I took the dates from last year and put these up for the board to vote on. It's gonna be this one right here. So most school board meetings will be the third Thursday of each month. However, with some of the months like February and July, those are going to be pushed to the fourth month, partly just to have a little bit of space between, and so you'll see that that will be the difference, and you'll have those with an asterisk by the side. And so when we say regular meeting, just for those that are watching, the school board will meet earlier than that to go into executive session, and that's where we talk about personnel and hiring, and that is the confidential executive session. And then the school board meetings will start approximately after that happens. Everything looks pretty similar on the third Thursday, except for in July, it pushes it back. I kind of do that because July is more of a down month. It allows us to push it a little bit closer to where school's at, so I can have some things into place that are more relevant for the start of the school year in August. And then, with the exception of November and December, traditionally our board has given out gifts during Thanksgiving and Christmas break for the staff members, and also those times are during holiday season, especially the one in December. A lot of nighttime activities are happening at that time, and also family activities. So I'm proposing this year that we hold both of those regular meetings at 2 p.m. in the afternoon, where we would meet a half hour prior to that for executive session, have a 2 p.m. board meeting for November and a 2 p.m. board meeting in December. And that will then allow the board, after the meeting is complete, to be able to hand out the holiday gifts to the teachers. And then next year's annual meeting will be scheduled for January 20th, 2022 at 6 p.m. Madam Chair, how do you feel about these? Are there any changes that you guys would like to make?
I appreciate that you changed the November and December ones. That'll be more conducive when we hand out the churches and hymns. Does anyone have any other discussion on it?
The others fit. Do well.
Very good.
All right, will the floor be open for a motion to approve the meeting dates for 2021?
Madam Chair, I make the motion to approve the proposed school board meeting dates for 2021.
Is there a second? I'll second that. Roll call vote, Mrs. Rigby. Aye. Mr. Schmidt?
Aye.
Mrs. Perkins?
Aye.
And Mr. Burnshaw?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, next, we need to ratify a transportation fuel purchase.
And this is consistent, Madam Chair, with what we traditionally do here at West Jefferson. Several years ago, the school board invested in fuel storage containers at the bus department, allowing our transportation department to take up, to purchase the fuel when it's at its historically low level. And so Mr. Pincock, he purchased the diesel fuel this last month. And so he estimated that there's going to be 8,000 gallons, and Ike's came in with the lowest bid. We're asked to get 3 bids, or at least seek out 3 bids. That was for the summer mix, and that was at $169. He texted me back later, and I believe that's almost 30 cents more now. And so that was a good time to fill up the tank. The winter mix, which is also a 50-50 blend, he is estimating 7,500 gallons, which would be estimated around $14,000. Ike's was the lowest with Valley White at 195. We did not receive a bid back from Bingham Co-op. And so this has been purchased, and it does save us a lot of money over time instead of just filling up our buses from down there. So are there any questions on the notes?
The board be looking for a motion to approve the fuel purchase.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we approve the fuel purchase.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call vote. Mrs. Rigby.
Aye.
Mr. Schmidt.
Aye.
Mrs. Perkins.
Aye.
And Mr. Birdshaw.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Okay. Calendar 2021-2022. Should I start with Mr. Williams?
Yes. I'm just pulling up. So this action item we've been discussing since October, and the board will make a calendar decision between a 4-day school week and the 5-day hybrid. Last year, the board chose a 1-year calendar option versus a 3-year option to explore calendar preferences, including the length of harvest break. Survey results in the fall indicated that the harvest preferences were split. There were approximately 50% of the patrons in favor and against the harvest. However, there were 70% of the staff that was in favor of it. That could be because we also have staff members who appreciate the time to work in harvest and earn extra money. The survey results for the 4-day option were approximately 65% of the patrons in favor and 70% of the staff in favor. And I believe you've heard from a lot of them. These survey numbers were not a vote. And I recognize that it wasn't a perfect science to go out and see exactly, but the trends seem very similar with the whole process of what we've heard from different people. And it was the survey results and searching into that was what started this conversation. But it wasn't the determination. We wanted to make sure that we had the process. I know that the 4-day school week has been discussed for 10 years in this district, and at times has been, strong opinions on both sides. This isn't something that I feel like the district is just considering blindly or at a whim. The topic was discussed at various PAW meetings, board work meetings, and the agendas and meetings were all recorded and have been available on the school board community site. From what I found after our work meeting, the overall research on a 4-day calendar on how it impacts student learning is negligible. That means it depends on who you talk to, it depends on where you look. Since that research is mixed, it really comes down to community preference and also where I would feel more comfortably what the district chooses to do with the time that we have while we're here. I know that there's differences of opinion for this proposal, and some of are very passionate for both sides. As superintendent, I'm confident that we will continue to progress as a district with either calendar option. And I want that to be really clear. I did not start this process thinking that it would move to this. It was something that developed, and part of my job is to consider all sources, and that includes the community. And initially when I was hired as a superintendent, I was not looking to go down this route. And I had a lot of people saying, you should try this. I lived in a 4-day school week, you should try this. And I didn't know if it was a quiet majority or where they sat. But after going through the work days, I'm comfortable with either calendar option. But however, it's only fair as a superintendent that I give a recommendation to the board and not allow you to be stuck with the decision completely. And after considering both sides, my recommendation to the board is in favor of the 4-day. Based on the reasons of teacher recruitment tool, that 70% of our teachers do commute. Now, to be fair, there are teachers that commute right now who are not in favor of this. I recognize it. but I also recognize that I'm the one that has to worry about hiring people in the district. And when that is a concern, going to job fairs that I've been to, and you've seen the different things, teachers are looking for an opportunity with 4-day school week. Now, some can say that's because you're a lazy individual and you don't want to work with kids. Or some could say that's because you don't like kids. We're going back to personal preference again. It's mixed. It's what we do when we're in the classroom. And another reason I feel that this is important, we don't have a lot of places to build out here. We don't have places for people to move in where we can really grow our own teaching staff, but also our own students. 20% of the students in our district come from out of district. And if those 20 students, or 20%, which is roughly between 110 and 120 students, didn't come here, we would be a 1A school. And we would lose about 5 teachers when it comes to FTEs. And those programs that we do offer with being a small school offering big opportunities, I feel they can continue if we have another thing that would help continue to attract those students. Now, it's not going to be just a 4-day. Some of them are coming already from the 4-day school district because of the things we offer. But there are others that I think would come, especially as our neighbor in Jefferson is continuing to grow, and parents have to weigh the pros and cons of transporting their children to the district. Again, we are set up to help students succeed in either calendar: teacher professional development, response to intervention, standards-based instruction. Those things are going to continue. Our teachers have been working towards this. This is a process. It doesn't just happen overnight. These are things that will continually have to be worked on for the next 3 to 5 years as we move forward with this. The districts that have gone to a 4-day schedule have overwhelmingly recommended it. I was asked by a patron earlier this year, why didn't you bring a superintendent in that was against the school year? You're stacking the deck, Mr. Williams, when you brought those 2 superintendents in. I don't know one. I honestly don't know one when I'm in my regional superintendent meetings. One that has gone to it and said they haven't liked it. Again, as I was looking at all the different emails and the concerns that people have on it, I think it goes back to preference. One concern that I've heard with, well, it's a bad timing. You know what? We can use COVID as an excuse for the next 10 years on a bad timing on everything. And I don't know when the right time would be. It wasn't the right time 5 years ago, it wasn't the right time 10 years ago. This is going to be the board's decision whether it is right now. But as I talked with the one superintendent, I asked him, I said, so if you had patrons, since it was their first year going to a 4-day schedule, I asked him, do you have patrons coming in and saying, we made a mistake, we shouldn't have gone to the 4-day school week? And he said, I hadn't even thought of that because I haven't heard about it. And so, and those were still students who missed all of April and all of May. I think it goes back to what are we doing in the classroom? The conditions, though, as I'm putting this recommendation, if a 4-day schedule is approved, the district should offer tutoring on Fridays if there's an interest for it. And those Fridays that would be looked at through using Title I funds or federal funds that are available through Title I to reach out to staff members, certified or classified, to be able to come in and work on a stipend to be able to help offer that. For either calendar, I would recommend that calendar reviews take place every 3 years. Let's let a calendar take place and work out. And the board can vote at any time before that 3 year to reopen it. And so if a decision is made tonight and the board just has overwhelming concern, even though if a 3 year is granted, they could open up any time and direct the superintendent to re-look at it. The final detailed calendar is not happening tonight. So the one that we see on here, those are all just examples and samples used to be able to make sure that the state requirements can be met. But the final detailed calendar will be set for approval in February's board meeting. And so, Madam Chair, that's what I have on that, and I will yield to your questions if you need them.
I have some things I want to say, mainly because I can't ignore all the calls and texts and emails that we all received. I can't ignore those. It seems like they were not going to be here tonight, so they wanted me and you to know what their feelings were. And so there were a lot of them. And I think you said you got a lot too. And they may have been one way or the other, but most of mine, for some reason or another, were all against the 4-day week. And we've all heard the arguments. And these arguments that you have are great. And their arguments are good too. And that's what makes it so hard to make a decision like this, because it affects so many people in so many different ways. And they're all looking out for themselves. And they're wanting their lives to be easier. And they're, the top 3 or 4, I think we can agree, are the day's too long. A little first grader going to school from 8 o'clock till 4. That's a concern for a lot of people. And I'm concerned about it too. And yet his research shows, or the people that he's talked to say, that they seem to get through it. But I just worry about that. I think the second problem, no parent in the home on Friday. Again, a lot of these kids are on their own whenever there isn't school. But you add a few more days to these kids to be alone, and that's a concern. Because there's a lot of kids in our district that don't have loving parents. Well, I shouldn't say that. I'll back up. Don't have parents at home that can help them through all of these things that they're behind on. They can't be there, they work. And so you've got kids that are on their own. That's a concern. And I think that to be honest, the lower income families suffer the most. They don't have that extra day of FaceTime with a teacher that can, teach them. And they don't have that extra day of eating that so many of them really appreciate. I think other complaints were that it caught them by surprise. And we have been very transparent, and I don't know why, the way we have things set up, why anybody would be caught by surprise, but this was a number one thing also. And so I urge all of you, and parents that are listening, and parents that have friends and others that don't hear this, tell them, spread the word, but start being more inquisitive and watching the board meetings, or look at the board agenda at least, and find out what's going on in your school so you know what's happening, you're not caught by surprise. And I just took I will be signing the paper, the Board of Ethics, the Board Code of Ethics. Number 16 reads, "Remember always that my first and greatest concern must be to the educational welfare of the student." And so when I think about this, I don't think of the family wanting their children home more, because that doesn't happen for every family. And I appreciate those that love to have their kids home. That's great, but there are kids that don't have that. And so I'm thinking about every student when I'm thinking that maybe it'd be better for them to be in school on Friday. And so that is why I lean towards the 5 hybrid day. I've had people say, why would you change this calendar when it's worked out that we have that 3-day weekend with our kids more often than we had last year? it's kind of a compromise. It's like you've compromised with us, and some of us are enjoying that 3-day weekend, but yet we also enjoy that next weekend when they're back in school. So a lot of people are saying to me, what's wrong with the calendar we have now? It's the best of both worlds. It helps those that want a 4-day week, and it helps those that want the 5. And so that's where I have the dilemma, because I listen to what you have said about the retention of teachers and the kids that come here, and how good that'll be for us. And I wish we could have both. But that's why it makes it so hard. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'll make a few comments. I've had quite a few communications with the teachers in this school, and overwhelmingly, they want the 5-day left in place. So I have to trust what they say, because they're the ones on the front lines teaching these children. I'm not, they are. So I have to decide on what's best, and the teachers are saying the 5 days is best. So I have to trust them with their opinions. So, thank you.
Scroll back up, please, make a comment. A couple of things. If it's an overwhelming, well, I'd like to reiterate what Mrs. Perkins said, that the information about the decision on these calendars has been made available in many different ways, 10 different meetings. The information has never been withheld, and if anything, Mr. Williams has been more than transparent with all the information that the staff and teachers and parents would need to know on this topic, and I'd like to thank him for making that information available. I'd also like to point out that in addition to a lot of the negative comments that have been made about this calendar, there have been a lot of positive comments about this. I've gotten both. I've gotten phone calls and texts on both sides of it. And it hasn't been something that any one of us would take lightly in making a decision on, nor should it be. But we have to look at all the information made available. And when that survey was sent out, I think that was an eye-opener for me to see that the community is speaking through that it's just not a vocal minority that is always in our face, that more than half said that they were in favor on the community side, and 70% of the teachers said that they were in favor of it. If they weren't, then the numbers would have shown other than what they did. And we have to look at that, especially as we approach passing bonds. And I know that no one should make threats of any kind, but threats have been made. And I would like to think that our constituents know that we are listening to what they have to say, and that it's not just something that we're going to let a vocal minority get in our face to change us one way or another, but that we are truly listening to what needs to happen. I have 4 children currently in school. For me as a parent, I think I would trade a little bit longer day to have an entire day at home with my child. I don't want to sacrifice education. Nobody does. We've had this conversation before, saying that if we take away a day of the week, then we value education less. That is not the case. Anybody could make the argument that if you value education more, then you make it a 6-day week or a 7-day week. It doesn't matter how many days we're there. What are we doing in the classroom? Is there fluff in the classroom? Sure there is. Are Fridays a lot of times a lackadaisical day where nobody's really focused? It's the end of the week. We're just going to do whatever. I don't know. I've been in school myself, and I know what Fridays were like for me as a high schooler. And it is what it is, and I made it out. When I went to college, I didn't have classes every single day. Classes were once a week, or they were twice a week, but I still got the information I needed because it was there, it was available, and I made myself available to learn that information. I would hope that we're not just teaching our kids, but we're teaching our students to become good learners so that they in return are understanding what it is we're being taught, that they're being taught, and what we're hoping that we're sending them to school for. On the no parent in the home, That is an issue. No one would say otherwise that it isn't an issue, but isn't it an issue when we have 2 full weeks out of school for harvest break versus 1 day a week? But we're saying you're going to be home for a full 2 weeks without a parent in the home. No one's ever made that as an argument. The longer days, we've addressed that. It's a personal preference. And it works for some and it doesn't work for others. The 5-day week currently works for some, but it doesn't work for others, but we make it work. I think overall as a district, we all have the good intention of wanting the best for students. I think not one of us would argue that we don't have that in mind. But I think we also need to listen to everyone in their entirety instead of just hearing a vocal minority all the time.
Thank you, everyone. Mr. Burtonshaw, did you have any comments?
Well, it's a pretty difficult decision to step in and do this where it affects so many people. I think each district within our school district is a little different and a little more unique. And so that's what makes it difficult, because I as well have received many phone calls for and against 4-day calendar. And it's been difficult for me, I guess, to look at it, because I feel like in the blended calendar, we kind of receive a equal compromise, if you will. We get some of that downtime, or, a 4-day week, as well as, a 5-day week as well. And so it's been a hard one to come to a decision with, I guess, for me. So that's all I have to comment on.
Thank you. Before we open for a motion.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we go to the 5-day hybrid calendar option for the school year 21-22.
Is there a second? Second. Is there any discussion? Roll call vote. Mrs. Rigby. Nay. Mr. Schmidt.
Aye.
Mrs. Perkins.
Aye.
Mr. Burtonshaw.
Aye.
The motion passes.
Can I say something?
Yes.
I would just like to thank our school board for seriously considering this issue. It's one of those things that that we've looked at, and I hold true to what we said here, that we will go forward no matter what the decision of this board is. And our board has worked really hard with making sure that we're at a point where we can have these types of discussions. And I know that each of these individuals respects one another and their opinions and their time on this board. Thank you, Madam.
Okay. We did skip employee insurance provider. We need to go back to that.
Yes, employee insurance provider. So last year we had an increase of 8% that was passed on through Blue Cross. This created an added cost to the district of approximately $60,000 to the district. Our insurance agent recommended that the district looks into changing companies and shop for a better rate. And so we've been able to reach out. Our insurance agents were able to do this. We've been reviewing the two options, and they're not completely the same coverage, and they have some differences. The master agreement states that insurance coverage can be altered if approved by both the Teachers Association and the board. the Teachers Association met last week, and they voted in favor of allowing the board to move forward with that. Our district staff with Mrs. DeGrom, Mrs. Bingham, we've been visiting with the insurance provider, and I believe we have all of our answers that we had trouble with resolved and concerns. The teachers, and I just need to pass this on, the teachers were overwhelmingly grateful for what the board has done for them. And they were willing to do whatever it needed to do, even with the potential initially that there were a couple employees that could potentially be really harmed by this. When that came to me, I said, no, we're not going to do it until we can understand a little bit better, but we've been able to go in and make sure that that will not happen for them. So we will be able to move forward. So what I'm asking for the board tonight is that just to allow the district to move forward with changing insurance carriers for the district employees. You'll see that what this does is because we cannot ask for a rate reduction from Blue Cross. Currently, we're paying $834 per employee per month. It's anticipated that there's going to be a 5% increase this next year from Blue Cross and just continue
Have
to
you ever seen
grow.
a year where they didn't have an increase?
No,
How can they just keep doing that?
and I know. And so,
Usually 5 or 10% a year.
so our agent has asked that question with the trying to find the right was the co-op from the state, and he was advocating for it, saying, why is West Jefferson so much higher than the other districts? It's not really beneficial to them. And they said, well, how long have they been with you? 23 years. And so our agent really is working hard to do this. However, the only way to really send a message is to shop somewhere else, and that's what we're doing. The potential savings that we would have is Mountain Health Co-op is the carrier that we would go with, and they would lock in the rate at $790 per employee, which could save us close to $95,000 over the next 19 months. And so that's something. So I appreciate our Teachers Association being willing to do that. Now it's just up to the board to make the final determination whether to move forward with that.
So, some information that we want to know is when we saw concerns, not only has our insurance agent gone to the school co-op, the school insurance to kind of fix that issue, he went back to Mountain Health Co-op and said some of these things are deal breakers, and they adjusted the plan that they originally presented to. And so it is better than it looked on Tuesday when to go to.
And so that was good for us to be able to have that, and I feel very comfortable moving forward now with this proposal to the board.
Okay. Well, the board be open for a motion to approve the employee insurance provider.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to allow the district to change the insurance carrier to Mountain
Health Co-op.
Mountain Health Co-op, excuse me.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mrs. Rigby? Mr. Schmidt?
Aye.
Mrs. Perkins?
Aye.
Mr. Burnshaw?
Aye.
That motion passes. Thank you. Okay. Again, annually, we do a superintendent evaluation. And that we did earlier this evening during executive session. This evaluation is part of Mr. Williams' personnel file and not part of public record. This satisfies Idaho Code 33513 subsection 2. And we just need a motion to verify that that was completed. Madam Chair, we just verify the completion of the superintendent's annual written evaluation. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Madam Chair.
Is there any discussion? Mrs. Ritchie. Mr. Schmidt.
Aye.
Mrs. Perkins.
Aye.
And Mr. Burnshaw.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Madam Chair, let's make a motion that we reconsider the early vote on the school calendar.
A motion has been made to reconsider the previous vote. Is there a second to reconsider?
Madam Chair, I had a hard time hearing that. Can you repeat what the question?
Mrs. Rigby has made a motion that we reconsider the previous vote. So a second would be just to approve the motion to reconsider. On the calendar. Yes, on the calendar.
So I'm sorry, I'm still struggling to hear. On what? Sorry. On the calendar, you said?
Just a motion to reconsider the vote. So we would go back and have further discussion. So a motion's been made, but it needs a second. And I will second that. So we'll vote on the motion to reconsider. Mrs. Rigby? Aye. Mr. Schmidt?
Nay.
Mrs. Perkins?
Nay.
Mr. Burnshaw?
Nay.
Motion fails. Just informational items.
Oops. For informational items, the board's been working through policy. And so 6.1 policy with the 3000 series. When we click on that one there, as we talked about in our work meeting, that we will take the policies that are required by state law and put those in district policy. And then we'll take those others that are not part of state law and put them into a procedural folder that will allow the school administration team, the high school administration, the elementary administration, and the teacher leadership teams to be able to make those changes on procedures. But these here are going to be the ones that are going to be in policy for the school board. And so if there were any, let's see, I don't think I can open that one up. This is just the first reading part. And so I'm not sure if there were any that were concerns that were put out there. Does the board have any concerns with any of the policies that we had brought up?
Called Carrie about a few things and different issues.
I did include the drug testing policy for athletes.
So the question that was brought up was the drug testing policy for athletes put back in there, and we did include that. And so we went back, the previous board several years ago passed that, and that is included and will be included in the district portion of
The
that.
one you were thinking about.
The social media.
Yes, so we have the social media in this section for students. And then there were several that you guys passed, and it included school board, teachers, and students. And so this one just includes the student one.
So the harassment, the bullying, cyberbullying, all that is found in both the teachers and
Correct.
the students policies.
Correct. So the student one deals specifically with student behavior. And so it addresses student behavior to student and to adult. And the teacher, in the teacher section, it addresses directly the teacher's behavior, the teacher and staff's behavior towards other people.
So these first drafts, this is not anything to vote on tonight. We will review these again. If there are any additional changes from right now with this, then that will become a first reading for that particular one. If there aren't any changes after these cross outs or anything, then that becomes a second reading and will be voted on at the next board meeting. So, Madam Chair, that's all I have unless there's any other questions on the policy discussion.
Levy.
Just as part of information, in December, our school board voted to run our supplemental levy, which expires every 2 years. And this will be held on March 9th. More information will be put out on the exact one. We did send the resolution to the county to be approved and finalized. And once that's finalized from the county, then we will get that information out with the exact details. And again, this is just information. If anybody watching here for the first time is just hearing about it for the first time, if you go back to December's meeting, you'll be able to see the entire discussion and the ins and outs of that proposal. 6.3 for our information. The next board meeting, we will have a safety meeting that will be presented where I will be inviting our administration to attend an executive session early on. We learned that some of our trainings at the safety meetings at the district level should be held in executive session with the board and not in a public hearing. At the next PA meeting, I'm going to be asking for parent concerns about safety or thoughts or anything like that when it comes to the overall safety of the school. And at that PA meeting, I'll be taking those considerations to this executive safety meeting at the next board meeting.
So what time should we come to that?
That would be, we would need at least 5 o'clock.
So 5 o'clock.
Yeah, to be able to give us an hour to meet with that.
Okay.
And I don't have it here on this one, and there will be, just as a calendar point of interest, that PA meeting will be on February 3rd at 8:30 in the morning, and will also be broadcast through our YouTube live channel. Madam Chair, that is all I have for the information section.
Floor be open for a motion to adjourn.
Madam Chair, I'll make that motion that we adjourn this meeting.
I'll second that, Madam Chair.
Mrs. Rigby? Aye. Mr. Schmidt?
Aye.
Mrs. Perkins? Aye. Mr. Burgershaw?
Aye.